Hey folks, Eder from Brain Pulp TV, and I am back with more Magic Online, and today we are kicking off a 9-match friendly sealed league. Yes, with Eldritch Moon coming out, they have started new 9-match leagues, this one that has both Shadows over Innistrad and Eldritch Moon. Now in the subsequent parts of this video series, you will see me play each of the 9 matches, but in this one, the first part of this series, you're going to see me explain what a 9-match league is, for those of you who don't know, as well as go over my card pool, and tell you about the deck that I built. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the 9-match league, it is basically like a regular sealed league. The deck construction consists of 4 packs of Eldritch Moon, 2 Shadows over Innistrad. You crack open all those packs, digitally of course, and that is your card pool. So you're then going to build a 40 card, well typically a 40 card, a 40 card sealed deck from it. Now, unlike with the 5-match league, where you play 5 matches and then whatever your record is at the end of that determines your prizes, a 9-match league is actually broken up into 3 stages. Each stage has 1 match each, so stage 1 will be matches 1, 2, and 3. At the end of the first stage, you have the option of adding 1 additional Eldritch Moon pack to your card pool. As well, after stage 2, which would be matches 4, 5, and 6, you have the option of adding a Shadows over Innistrad pack to your card pool. Now, on top of prizes for the overall number of wins after 9 matches, much like with a 5-match league, where it's all determined, your prizes are determined on how many matches you win within those 5, with a 9-match sealed league, you get bonus player points dependent on how many matches you win in each stage. So I believe it's if you win 3 matches, you'll get 40 player points, and this is tacked on to the total of what you will get for your overall score as far as the matches go. So let's say you win 3 matches in your first stage, 3 matches in your second stage, you are going to be awarded 80 player points before you've even reached the end of the league. Then in stage 3, if you get 3 more wins, you will get an additional 40 player points, plus the highest prize value for getting 9 wins in a 9-match league. Now, hopefully all that makes sense, and I won't be going over each individual prize amount that you'll get depending on how many wins. However, you can find all this information on Wizards of the Coast's Magic Online customer support section of their website. And now that the description part is over, let's get to what my card pool is for this particular sealed league. Now, this time around, I'm actually really pleased with the rares. To start off, I have 2 mythics. The first one being, I forgot how small that preview window is Gisela the Broken Blade. She is a 4/3 flying first strike lifelinker. She costs 2 and 2 white, so white is looking really good. It would be very difficult for me not to want to go into white given this mythic, but as you're about to see, I think there's a rare or mythic in every single color that makes me kind of want to go into that color, and there's no way I'm playing 5 colors. And once again, when I say something's very good or very powerful, this is coming from a novice when it comes to sealed and draft play, so take it with a grain of salt. Now, moving on, our next rare is another mythic. It is Seasons Past. For 4 and 2 green, you get a sorcery, return any number of cards with different converted mana costs from your graveyard to your hand, put Seasons Past on the bottom of its owner's library. This card has completely turned the tide for me in matches when my opponent has played it. Don't really think I've had a chance to take advantage of Seasons Past in the past, but this time I'm kind of wanting to play it, especially considering that come late game when this card is played, you have the opportunity a lot of the time of almost completely refilling your hand, which is a nice little bonus. And now moving on to the rare in red that makes me want to play red, we have Bedlam Reveler. Now Bedlam Reveler costs 6 and 2 red for a 3/4. Doesn't sound good, but this Devil Horror also costs 1 less for each sorcery or instant card in your graveyard. It also has prowess. On top of all that, when it enters the battlefield, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. A little bit later in the game, this basically is cast for almost nothing and draw 3 cards to get a 3/4 creature on the board. Moving on to the colorless, actually black creature that makes me want to play black, we have Distended Mindbender. It is an 8-cost Eldrazi insect, 5/5. It has a merge though, so for 5 and 2 black, you may cast the spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the emerge cost reduced by that creature's converted mana cost. So if you have a creature on the board that has a converted mana cost of 4, you can sack it, and then this will only cost you 1 and 2 black to cast. On top of which, When you cast the Distended Mindbender, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose from it a non-land card with a converted mana cost of 3 or less, and a card with a converted mana cost 4 or greater. That player discards those cards. So once again, a very, very playable rare in black. So we now have a white playable rare, a green playable rare, a red playable rare, and a black. Next up, we have Soul Separator, which is, I don't think it's really playable. I'll read it through anyways. It is a 3-cost artifact. You can pay 5 and then tap it, sacrifice Soul Separator, exile target creature card from your graveyard, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of the card, except it's a 1/1. It's a spirit in addition to its other types, and it has flying. Put a black zombie creature onto the battlefield with power equal to that card's power and toughness equal to that card's toughness. So really, for the most part, given the cost to get it out there and the cost to actually activate it, I don't think it's that useful. I can see it possibly be useful in certain situations, not so much with sealed, but maybe there's a constructed deck out there which can really take advantage of the Soul Separator, but I will not be playing the Soul Separator. Now a card that's got a little bit of blue that makes me want to play blue, Spell Queller. For 1 white, 1 blue, you get a 2/3 spirit with flash and flying, and when it enters the battlefield, exile target spell with a converted mana cost 4 or less. When Spell Queller leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner may cast that card without paying its mana cost. It's a nice little trick. It's caught me off guard several times when my opponents have played it against me. I'd love to be able to play it, but once again, we can't play every color. Next up, our second last rare is To the Slaughter. For 2 and 1 black, gets you an instant. Target player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. It has Delirium. If there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyards, instead that player sacrifices a creature and a planeswalker. Now, like 90% of the time, this is going to be used to remove a creature, but still, it's good removal, and it has an added upside so that if you happen to have Delirium and your opponent does have a planeswalker, you're guaranteed to take out both the planeswalker and at least one of their creatures. So another solid card in black. And to end off the rares, we have Westvale Abbey. Westvale Abbey is a land. You can tap it for 1 colorless, or you can pay 5, tap it, pay 1 life, put a 1/1 white and black human cleric creature token onto the battlefield. You can also pay 5, tap it, sacrifice 5 creatures, and transform Westvale Abbey, then untap it. And it transforms into Armandal Profane Prince, which is a 9/7 demon with flying, lifelink, indestructible, and haste. If you can activate this, it usually means game over for your opponent. So there you go, folks. Those are the rares. Now you can see why just from looking at the rares, I have no idea what colors I will be going into. Probably just to look at it right now, I would think that I would be going for maybe white, blue, possibly white, green, but we'll have to see what the rest of the cards are, and let's get to that right now. Okay, as you're about to see, there are a lot of really good playable cards in white, which makes me want to go more and more into white. We have the Thraben Inspector, we have Thraben Standard Bearer, Blessed Alliance, which I think is a great, great card, Geist of the Lonely Vigil, Sigardian Priest, Angelic Purge, which is one of my favorite bits of removal, Choking Restraints, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite bits of removal, or pseudo-removal, I guess, in that case, Dawngryff, Ironclad Slayer, we have 2 of those, and since we have Choking Restraints, it's not a bad card to have in your deck. Fiendbinder, I really like Fiendbinder. Gisela, we've gone over before. And then Faithbearer Paladin, which is a 3/4 lifelinker for 5. Very, very solid card. I'm fairly certain, given these cards, that I will be going into white. Now let's check out blue and see if maybe we'll get to play Spell Queller in our deck. We have Compelling Deterrence, Contingency Plan, which I think is very good if you're going for a Delirium. Erdwall Illuminator, Press for Answers, Unsubstantiate, which I really like. Chilling Grasp, which is also good. Convolute, it's a nice counterspell in my opinion. Exaltant Cultist, we got 2 of those. Grizzled Angler, which I think can be very, very useful if we have the colorless creatures in our deck that could get it to flip, because it flips into a 4/5 and you pay 6 and creatures your opponent controls attack this turn if able. Can be a very, very good card. This card has hurt me in the past when I played against it, but it's really dependent on how many colorless creatures we can have to really improve this card. Next, we have Pieces of the Puzzle, and then Silberland Snapper. Now, there are some good instants and sorceries in blue. Like I said, the Grizzled Angler is nice. I wouldn't sneeze at putting an Exaltant Cultist in the deck, but overall, I don't think blue, it doesn't really come out and grab me. Like, there's nothing here that makes me, oh, I definitely want to play blue. So if we are going to play Spell Queller, we may just have to splash for it, and not play like a lot of blue cards. Now let's look at black and see what we have there. Obviously, I've looked at these cards before, so I do know for a fact that we have a lot of removal in black. Okay, to start things off, we have Borrowed Malevolence, removal. Deadweight, removal again. Strange Augmentation, Graph Rats. However, we do not have the Midnight Scavengers, so we probably wouldn't be putting Graph Rats in our deck if we would be playing black. Then we have Boon of Emicrul, which, once again, removal. Crow of Dark Tidings, Merciless Resolve, Thraben Foulbloods, To the Slaughter, which we talked about before, which is removal. Stallion of Ashmouth, Ruthless Disposal, which is, I think, quite good removal, though costly. I mean, it's costly. You have to discard a card and sack a creature, which if you build your deck around it a little bit, it's not that big of a deal. And 2 target creatures each get -13 at the end of turn. So it's very hard to get around this particular bit of removal. And then last but not least, we have Certain Death, which once again is removal. I told you, black has got a ton of removal. Removal can be very, very important. It is very, very important in sealed. So this makes me want to play at least black for splash so that I can play some of these bits of removal, though the creatures in black don't really blow me away. Okay, now let's go to red. We have Galvanic Bombardment, which is removal. We got 2 of them as well, too, which makes it slightly better than if we just had the 1. Insolent Neonate, Distemper of the Blood, which has Madness, so that's something to keep an eye on. Ember Eye Wolf, Sanguinary Mage, Senseless Rage, Brazen Wolves, and we have Convicted Killer here. Convicted Killer is actually sort of one of my favorite lower cost werewolf creatures. It's nothing flashy, but it's a good solid card to play a lot of the time. Then we have Geist Blast, which obviously gets a little bit better when you're playing blue along with it. Make Mischief, Shreds of Sanity, 2 copies of Blood Mist, a Hulking Devil, Malevolent Whispers, Stensia Innkeeper, 2 of those, and then the Bedlam Reveler. So red seems to be a more even mix of removal and creatures. However, the removal in red, in my opinion, is nowhere near as strong as the removal we saw in black. So let's move on to green and see what we have. We have Hamlet Captain, Primal Druid, Crawling Sensation, Hermit of the Natternolls, 2 Spring Sage Ritual, a Swift Spinner, a Tangleclaw Werewolf, Watcher in the Web, Somberwald Stag, which I think is a great card. It's a creature, and it can also just be used as straight up removal. And if you're very lucky, it can be used as straight up removal and still stick around as a creature afterwards. Then we have Kessick Dire Swine, and finally, as we talked about before, Seasons Past. Now, I really like a lot of the cards in green. The problem is several of them require 2 green, which means if we're going to be playing these cards, we're going to need to do more than just simply splash green. And since I'm still heavily leaning towards white, we would have to do a heavy white-green build with maybe a splash of another color. Otherwise, I just think it's going to be too tough to be able to consistently get the 2 green that we're going to need when we need it, even though we do have certain mana fixing, the Primal Druid, and another bit that you'll see later on. Okay, moving on to the multicolored, as we talked about before, Spell Queller. I wasn't super enthused with the blues, so if we would play it, it would probably be a white-green with just a splash of blue, but I don't know, that removal in black is really sort of pulling me towards black. Now, before we make the final decision, let's see what we have in the way of colorless stuff. When it comes to land, we have Foul Orchard, which will work if we do a white-green-black build. That's a nice little bit of mana fixing there. We have Westvale Abbey, which I will most likely play regardless of what build I'm going for. Cathar's Shield, which I'm seriously considering putting into the deck. I don't usually play a lot of equipment. The other one, I'm blanking. The Brazier, I think it is, where it allows your creatures to gain +1/+1, and I think an additional +1/+1 if they're a human and they have vigilance, something like that. That particular bit of equipment I do play quite often. I've never played Cathar's Shield. I might try it. It's 0 cost. I mean, it's 3 to equip, but it's 0 cost to get out there, so you can get it out in turn 1 and just have it sitting there waiting for someone to be able to wear it. And it gives your creatures +3 to toughness, and they have vigilance. Next up, we have Terrarian. I believe that's the pronunciation, which is a bit of mana fixing, but temporary, even though it does replace itself because you can draw a card once you use it. Moving right along, we have Cultist Staff, Cryptolith Fragment, which I will probably play. I think I will play this card if I'm going 3 colors, which I probably will. It's mana fixing. It's going to be dealing damage to both me, and an opponent, but if I play white, I'll be gaining some life back, most likely, because I have a couple life linkers there. It also has the added bonus if it does flip. I don't know how likely it is going to be to flip, but still, it's more to have access to the type of mana we need when we need it. Then we have Soul Separator, which I talked about before, and I'm most assuredly not going to be playing. Thirsting Axe, not crazy about. Wicker Witch, Geist-Fueled Scarecrow, which I do not care for at all. The Distended Mindbender, which we talked about. And then we have 2 copies of It of the Horrid Swarm, which is another one of these emerge creatures. It's in green, essentially. And when you cast it, you can put 2 1/1 green insect creature tokens onto the battlefield. This makes me even more want to play green. So there you go, folks. That is the card pool that I have to work with. And I had built a deck. I'm going to show you the deck right now. Shouldn't be any surprise from the way I was talking before. I think you guys probably know the colors I'm going to go into. I'm going to be white, green, and black. So here is my deck. And before I go into it, one of the good things about sealed tournaments is the fact that you can change up your deck after each match. So by the time we get to part 4, I can almost guarantee you that I will have swapped out certain cards, and you don't have to be locked into the same deck every single match and just wait till you can sideboard in and out cards that you either want or don't want. Instead, you can assess after each match what's working, what's not working, what you want to change, and then change it so that you can go up against your next opponent with a slightly stronger deck, in theory. And typically, between each and every match, I do end up making slight alterations. However, after I play the first 3 matches of this league, I'm going to wait for a while. You guys will have a chance to sort of give me some feedback if you want, or just wish me luck or whatever. Anyways, enough about that. Let's get to the deck itself. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 forests. We have the Foul Orchard, which will help us with mana fixing. We have 3 and 6 plains, 3 more swamps, and then the Westvale Abbey. Now, I have to admit, I'm a little worried about how few swamps we have, even though we have, well, a few black cards. But overall, I'm hoping things like the Wild Orchard and some of the other cards I'm about to talk about will sort of make up for our lack of swamps. Now, as for the cards themselves, we have the Thraben Inspector, Deadweight, Blessed Alliance, Geist of the Lonely Vigil, Sigardian Priest, Primal Druid. This is a bit of that fixing that I'm hoping will come into play when we're playing. Angelic Purge, so there's some decent removal there. There's going to be a nice mix of removal and creatures and spells in this deck, I think anyways. Choking Restraints, Dawn Griff, Ironclad Slayer, which can help get Deadweight back. It can help get Choking Restraints back. It can help get the next card back, Boon of Emrakul. We got Hermit of Natter Knolls. We have Fiendbinder, Gisela, which is one of the very, very big reasons that we're in white, even though there's a whole lot of, I think, really good white in this deck. Swift Spinner, Tangleclaw Werewolf. We have Faithbearer Paladin, Ruthless Disposal, Somberwalled Stag, Seasons Past, Kessig Direswine, and then Distended Mindbender and It of the Horrid Swarm. Now, Distended Mindbender, I'm still sort of on the fence about. I like it. I think it's a very strong card. But its emerge cost requires 2 black. And as I mentioned before, we don't have a ton of swamps. Part of me wants to put 2 It of the Horrid Swarms in instead of the Distended Mindbender. But we'll see when we play matches what we're going to alter and what we're going to keep. Speaking of the matches, when I play, I will be playing all of the matches from stage 1. So matches 1, 2, and 3 will all be played back to back to back. I will then give you guys some time, if you want, to give me some feedback. And then on this should be coming out on Monday. So on Friday, I will be playing the next set of matches. So if you see anything that you think I should tweak or fix or whatever, I'll be doing that in between probably each of the matches anyways. But if there's something that's glaring that you still think after 3 matches that I should fix, please let me know. I can't say for sure that I will take your advice and put it directly into the deck, but I will always consider what you guys have to say. So there you go, folks. That is the deck I will be playing, at least for the very first match, and probably something very, very similar for the second and third matches. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, comments, as I mentioned before, please leave that in the comments section below. I would love to hear from you guys. You can also contact and follow us on Twitter. It is @BrainPulpTV. or you can contact and follow me directly on Twitter at Geek Tragedy. Up next, in part 2, you will see the first match of the league. But in the meantime, take care, everyone. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing, and I'll see you all very soon.